Pueblo City fucked up. Pueblo City had a chance to get instant runoff voting for the future generations, for the children, but instead of actually getting a fair electoral system, we're going to continue on with rigging elections. We are a gerrymandering, electoral college super delegate cheating society. The two-party system has entrenched. They have a hold of our entire elections process, our entire election system. That's why there's no third parties out here in America, the land of the free and the brave. You got 20 choices for cereal and for soap and so many options for bullshit fucking supplies, but only 2 choices for president and for many other positions too. And so that tradition is going to carry on. It's going to continue. Here in Pueblo City, it's slightly more progressive. They went ahead and voted for a 2-round system. So it's not an instant runoff voting system, but it is the 2-round system of voting. So 2-round system of voting, RSV, compared to rank choice voting, RCV. So we have RSV, not RCV. It is a different one. It is slightly more progressive. It's not just first past the post. It's not just a plurality. It's an actual runoff, true blue runoff election. That's why it's called the 2-round election. But it's, you know, the top 2. So if there is not a majority from the first round of voting, if one of the candidates does not break the 50% threshold, then the top 2 candidates goes on to the next runoff election, and there's a cage match to the death. So they just put them in a cage match and let them fight it out, and then the people vote by applause who they think won. So that has the potential for destroying all of Pueblo City, all of society, to start a civil war. Say, for example, you get an establishment figure in there, an Atencio, a Wiener, or a Gratisar. So you get somebody that's already in the system that's, you know, going to be... So you get an establishment person versus an outsider, a Janet Wilson, or a Jackie Massey, or a Tony Pemberton. You get a, you know, an outsider, a true blue outsider who don't know shit, don't know Adam, don't know Eve, don't know anybody from anybody, just is a good-ass person and is not going to be corrupt, not going to make sure their friends and family are taken care of, but make sure that they stay loyal to the common people. You must stay loyal to the common people if you're going to be any kind of politician, any kind of honest politician. So the pros is really one pro. I mean, it's a runoff election, so you're going to get a kind of, well, maybe a manufactured majority-based winner, but the clear pro is that the instant runoff voting was going to have you rank 1 through, 10. So you might have had to rank these candidates, but this RSV voting system, the 2-round system of voting, it makes sure that you only vote for one candidate the first round and then one candidate the second round. So the illiterate, retarded, stupid-ass, dumb motherfucking people, for the morons, RSV voting is wonderful. It is great. They will absolutely love it. Now, the cons, there's several cons. We're not going to know who the mayor is for 2.5 months later. We're going to have election. Who's the mayor? We don't know, but there'll be 2 people. Who's the 2? And then we'll be talking about who these 2, assholes. Which one of these assholes, which one of these doucher turd sandwiches are better? So 2.5 months later, we're going to find out who the mayor is. The turnout is always lower in the second election. So the people who voted for in the first election, you're going to have them taper off, and there's going to be less people. So who's going to vote for mayor? Not the same people that voted in the first election. The other the downside is that it's going to cost a bunch of money. It's going to cost $100,000 for the second election, which actually seems sort of inexpensive, to be honest with you, for an entire election. But it was unnecessary. We could have had 10 runoff elections in one moment. Or we could have done 2 of them. We could have done a compromise. Instant runoff for both of them. That would have been the best way to do it, I think. Then you would have had 2. Anyways, they don't care about doing it fancy or neat or interesting. They basically fucked over. We don't have a fair election system. It's not a fair election system. So the turnout is going to be lower. It's going to cost $100,000 more. You won't know the mayor until 2.5 months later. It's not instant runoff voting. Now, the 2 biggest problems that I see with Pueblo City's new system of voting for the mayor, it's not a fair election. It's not. It goes along with the 2-party duopoly. So the pro-duopoly election. this is the same kind of system that France and Haiti has, but also Kyrgyzstan and Afghanistan. So Pueblo City is rigging this election. They are cheating. The two-party system, the two-party duopoly has went ahead and done the top two. There's no majority candidate with the first one. You're going to have a top two. There's 20 candidates. Nobody's going to break out. Nobody's going to be the majority candidate. So that means it's guaranteed to come down to two candidates. Probably a liberal, probably a conservative, probably the top Republican and the top Democrat. The most heavily financed, the horse that the Democratic or the Republican Party has decided to back. So that's a major problem. Another major problem is that this will most likely manufacture a majority-backed winner. So if you get two, let's say there's 20 candidates, so that means a 6% and 7%. Everybody else gets, about 5%. So if there's a 6% and a 7% winner, we're going to force the 6% and 7% winners to go against each other, and one of them will get the majority between the two, so therefore they got the mandate of the people, they got the mandate of the majority, but that was picked out of 20. You had 20 candidates, and you picked the 6% and the 7%, and then you said, aha, the 7% or the 6% beat the 7%, and if the 6% beat the 7%, is that fair? Oh my God, that's not even majority. You're cheating. You're not even doing majority-backed winners. Yeah, that's what a Flores would say. So the big thing is that you're going to manufacture a majority-backed winner. It's only choosing 2 out of 20, so that's unless it's a clear majority, right? So the Jovenel Moise had won the Haitian election by a resounding margin, 50-something% to 20%. So that was clear. It only went one round. He won. He kicked everybody else's ass. He's the fucking man. He's the main president. So that's all she wrote. That's all. No second round. No other system. We don't wait until January 22nd. 2.5 months later, we find out on election day if one person beats 50%. So it does most likely will manufacture a majority-backed winner. And this is a two-man cage match. This is going to be a fight to the death. This is going to turn Pueblo City into a civil war. And perhaps with its establishment versus the anti-establishment, maybe it is time to drain the swamp of the establishment types. So if that's maybe turning Pueblo City into a civil war, so let's assume there is not a majority winner. Let's assume you get Janet Wilson and you get Lori Winter. So Lori Winter versus Janet Wilson for 2.5 months. That's all anybody's going to talk about. We're going to go vote, then the troops, and then count it all up, and then see where it comes. So essentially, the people who want change, they're going to want Janet Wilson. And then if you're going to sit there and try to deny the people who want to change to go with the establishment person who wants to keep everything the same, I mean, that's quite a proposition. So that would be, I would like to think it would be fun, but I could also see the perils of it. We had a civil war before. So we've had, 10,000 people get killed. 10,000 Americans were killed in one day in the Civil War. So there's a couple things that Pueblo City, the government forgot to think about when they passed this 2-round voting system. So those are the major problems that I see. Essentially, it's not instant runoff voting, so it's not a fair electoral system. It's pro-to duopoly. It will most likely manufacture a majority-backed winner. Just look at the two top spots. The top two people. If it's not like a 40%er and a 30%er, if it's, 2 20%ers or 2 10%ers, that is not a fair election. That is not a fair, those are not majority-backed winners. What the fuck? Oh, this person won 13% out of all of them, so they barely beat all the other ones. Well, since they barely beat them, might as well make them fucking governor, right? Hell, make them fucking president. Then it's a two-man cage match, so who knows what the dynamic, if it's a Bob Schilling versus a Lori Winter, those are two establishment types. One not even running, so where the hell did he just come from? And if it was them, then who the hell gives a shit, right? Nobody's going to even vote for that. You'll get about 5 people in that election, but that's all they need. If Rufus Bertrude McGee votes, that's all we need. We don't do redos here in the United States of America. And these these divided snakes of embarrassment. So Pueblo City's government forgot to think about these things. So there's some things that Haiti and France does that we didn't even do here. So the French law, they banned publication of exit polls, which is interesting. It has nothing to do with two-round voting, but the two things that have to do with two-round voting is that France requires that the winner of their two-round voting system to have at least a minimum of a 25% registered voter turnout rate. So if there is the same turnout as there was last year, 35% is going to, choose what? The 35% of 13%? This gets smaller and smaller. If we don't have the majority of the people voting in these elections, it's not a fair election. It's not true blue democracy. We don't have popular government here because nobody gives a shit about the government, and the government operates under the shadows in plain sight, because apathy in a democracy is just as bad as dictatorship, tyranny in a dictatorship. So Pueblo City doesn't have a 25% registered voter turnout minimum, and we got 35%, so it actually beats them. It wouldn't disqualify it, but it does seem that it's good that you have a floor. And why 25%? You need 50%. What the fuck? We need a majority. So, but in America, we don't give a shit if it's a majority. If Rufus Burtrude votes and he's the only one that votes, well then whoever the fuck Rufus Burtrude voted for now gets to be the goddamn mayor of dumbfuckn, Colorado, USA. Haiti's two-round system says that if one candidate wins by more or by 25%, say if there's one 49% winner and a 22% winner, so the spread is 27%, well, that's clearly the country wanted one over the other. So they have determined that that is not a fair election. 49 versus 22. Nope, the 49 wins because they beat by such an overwhelming, resounding margin by more than double, by more than two. But it says by 25%, but we haven't done that either. So there would be another runoff election if there was a 49% winner and a 6% winner. So these are just some pratfalls that Pueblo City did not foresee. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. I'd like to say forgive them, for they know not what they do, but they do know what they do. Ranked choice voting is not what Pueblo City went with. They went with round system voting, RSV. Not RCV, but RSV. So the RSV system, I guess we'll find out if the Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan system is going to be the best goddamn system for choosing mayors in Pueblo City for here until eternity. All right. John Masters, Pueblo, Colorado, USA, Earth, Universe. Milky Way, universe.